Greg Mercer, welcome to the Ecomcrew podcast.
Mike, happy to be here. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, so this is an interesting environment. Usually I record podcast over the internet, but we're actually in the same room together.
Real life. It's going to be a whole different energy.
Yeah, it's definitely cool.
You know how to do this?
I don't. I feel like I need like a microphone on my face or something. Yeah.
We can maybe give you like a fake mic or something. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we did some other stuff earlier, and you gave me like a fake platform to stand on because I wasn't as tall as you to I was too short.
I wasn't going to tell anyone about this. You keep telling everyone.
Well, you're going to tell someone at some point. It's going to be like up on a slide in a presentation, and I might as well just cut it off at the knees. I don't want to, let it get too far.
I should have gotten some picture proof.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I was looking back. We've never had you on one-on-one on the podcast. You've been on. We did those 5-minute pitch things where the four of us were together and we had some interesting talks, but never one-on-one.
You're right.
Yeah.
Kind of forgot about that.
Yeah, don't take it
Why
personally.
didn't you have me on sooner, man?
Well, no.
I thought we were friends.
Well, friends don't let friends get on the podcast. Like I didn't want to waste your time until now, I guess. Right? But I thought it'd be cool to talk about a few things. I mean, you've obviously sold a ton of stuff online, and we have an audience of people that are Amazon sellers. You also, I think, are probably the most well-known software tool in the industry. Everyone knows JungleScout. You were kind of the pioneer in that. And we've never talked to someone about starting a software company. And, I realize that isn't e-commerce necessarily per se, but it is very much a business thing. And,
Totally.
It's really amazing what you've been able to do to grow this from just you coding, traveling around the world, coding the plugin yourself, to growing a company that now has 150-ish people in at least 3 countries, if not 4, and then some remote people as well. And so I think we can talk about growing teams and systems to do that and what might be next for JungleScout.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, it's a lot to talk about.
That is a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
We better get going.
So what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it selling on Amazon or was it the plugin first?
It was selling on Amazon.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever actually even told you my whole story, Mike, but, I got a job out of college working as a civil engineer. That's what I went to school
But
for.
you didn't wear a tie.
No tie. Yeah, I've never had a job with a tie. I kind of want one just for a day. Maybe tomorrow I'll wear a tie.
Okay.
Got a job, no tie, but did work a corporate job and hated it.
Yeah.
Whole life had an entrepreneurial spirit. I knew I kind of wanted to do my own thing. So actually I tried a handful of just little hacky ways here and there to try to make money. At that point, I didn't care about doing, or developing some business that I thought would be really awesome or I'd be passionate about. All I cared about at that moment of my life was making enough money so I could quit my day job. And the first side hustle that I had that started to pick up a little bit of traction or made me serious money was selling physical products on Amazon. So that's how it kind of all started, and that's what actually gave me the income I needed to quit my job.
Interesting. So what year was that when you were first selling on Amazon?
2012.
2012. So you're like an OG because that's a long time ago in e-commerce space.
In the Amazon space, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
FBA was still kind of new.
It was new, yeah. We started selling on Amazon in 2015, early 2015. We were doing e-commerce, selling on our own websites like Schmoes back in 2012. That was a lot harder, but that's interesting. So, I mean, there obviously wasn't a lot of information out there about that at the time. So how did you even find out about selling on Amazon at that point?
My dad is actually an e-commerce seller, and he has his own warehouse and stuff. He was selling stuff through Amazon, but it was fulfilled by merchant.
Okay.
And I think he was the one that kind of turned me onto it because he was like, I think he was just like, you should check this out because what's really nice about FBA, you don't have to get a warehouse like I have. They'll store your stuff, fulfill it, et cetera, et cetera. So I think he was the one that put the bug in my ear a little bit, and then I started researching about it. And there was some information online about selling on Amazon, of course, but there wasn't any of these nicely packaged courses or sets of information like there are today. You kind of was picking up a little bit of information here or there,
right.
Seller Central forums or whatever else.
Okay.
And then what was really interesting is I was probably fairly early in the space to import goods from China, private label and from the Amazon private label strategy that we know today. And back then, I learned about it through reading this case study of someone importing plastic BB guns and selling them on eBay.
Interesting. Okay.
And then I was like, dang, this is pretty cool. That's how I learned how to find factories on Alibaba and stuff. And that's kind of how it got started.
Interesting. So what were the initial products? Were they a bunch of disparate crazy things, or were they one brand that was all related together?
I'd say the first year I was selling like a whole bunch of different types of stuff. So at first I wanted to try and sell like some wholesale. So I got a few contracts set up a few accounts they primarily did medical supplies. And there was just no margin on that stuff. I tried like a little bit of like the online arbitrage type strategy where I was like buying stuff at discounts and trying to resell it on Amazon. That obviously has a whole bunch of limitations and problems with it. And then as far as private labeling stuff goes, it didn't have any commonalities. I had like a Kegel exerciser.
Interesting.
I had a little bench that you kneel down on when you're gardening. And I had a couple other, I'm trying to think of like my first like 5 products, but none of them had anything to do with each other.
Okay.
At the time, I don't know if my goal was to try to start a brand or anything else. I think I was like, let me try a few different types of products, see what works, see what doesn't. And then I probably actually didn't have a plan after that.
Right. Go surfing or something. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Like throw a few up on there, see if I can make a little bit of money. And yeah, I'm not thinking like, at that point I was thinking like a few weeks ahead, not like even a few months.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting how all of us think in our 20s, right? It's like, it's till Friday, I think, or whatever is about as far as it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, hopefully one of these just makes me a little bit of money so I don't have to work this stupid job I hate.
Right. Very interesting. So I'm curious, is like obviously you were younger. Where did you get the capital to start just getting those initial products to sell on Amazon?
So I've had like a number of side hustles, and each of them I think like I kind of stair-stepped up a little bit. So I've always done all kinds of just weird stuff over my entire life to make money. But like during that point, I had like done like a few like ghost-written Kindle books that were making me a little bit of money, and then I started buying and selling domain names. And I built like this scraper to scrape a bunch of different sources for like brands or like LLCs that registered and a few other things. And I was registering those domain names and then selling them. Looking back, I now think it's unethical.
Moment.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not real proud of that.
So wait,
you might be the first person I'm told that actually.
You were like
on a podcast
looking at like the Nevada LLC registry or something. As soon as someone registered an LLC, you go out and buy their brand's domain name and try to sell it to them for a couple $100 more than you paid for it.
Yeah, it's like legal but unethical.
Yeah.
I actually feel really bad about it looking back on it. But there was a few home runs so like a bunch of them I'd sell for a few $100.
Right.
But I also had a few home runs. Like this one was this medical device that just raised like a few $1 million of VC funding.
Nice.
So I think they paid me like $40,000 or $50,000
Holy
or something.
crap! Wow.
And
That's a good way to get started with FBA.
Yeah. So I had a few home runs, and that was essentially the capital that I used to get started.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we all have these skeletons in our closet from our early entrepreneurial days. And when you're younger, you don't really think of it as unethical, right? You're just looking for ways to make money online, and you're not stealing from somebody or doing something that's like by the book unethical. But as you get older and you're in business yourself, you realize, man, like if someone did that to me, if someone like went out and registered JungleScout.com, because like I just, at first before, you'd be like, that would really suck. And then you start to realize that maybe that's not the best way to go about doing things in the future.
Totally.
Yeah.
Actually, right now, someone registered the JungleScout trademark in China. Ended up costing us like, I think like $50,000 or $80,000 to get it back. But it seems like karma, because like it sounds like that's about how much money I made off these domain names. It kind of almost seems fair. Like what goes around comes around at this point. Now I think about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it happens. I mean, again, luckily we're not here talking about it. I don't have to talk about all the embarrassing things that I did. So.
But yeah, ultimately that's how I got the capital.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely enough to, $50K or something. Plus, it sounds like there might have been a little bit more on top of that. It's enough to get a pretty decent amount of inventory. Because my next question was going to be, it's one thing to start selling like a item or two on Amazon, but making enough money from that and rolling that into being able to make enough to quit your job is another whole story. So it sounds like you had $50,000, maybe $100,000 that you were able to put in some inventory. It started rolling that. In the early days when there wasn't as much competition, margins were probably a little bit better, and were able to pull a little bit of money out to pay for your lifestyle. But you weren't really living an extravagant life at that point, and you were hopping around on a plane and living in cheap places.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I kept that job. Like I was selling on Amazon while I had that job for probably like 6 months, and that's when I kind of had enough confidence to be like, yeah, like I have a few different ways I can make money now. I can make this happen. That's why I got the courage to quit. And then at the same time I quit, well, this was part of the plan, was to quit, sell our house, sell all of our possessions. So like we also got cash from that. And then my wife and I, we started off in the Philippines, but yeah, the goal was to just be digital nomads. We didn't have anything holding us back. We were living in low-cost areas of the world. Like for the first year, we only pretty much stayed in like pretty like inexpensive like housing arrangements, but also just like inexpensive cities and countries. So, you know, like a lot of people associate travel with these high expenses because like if you only get 2 weeks of vacation a year, like you're going to use those like going to like, like awesome places. You'll blow like thousands of dollars in 1 week. But for us, like we were probably living on maybe like $2,000 a month or something, and like living like a high quality of life for that price in these areas of the world. So yeah, kind of all those things went together to be able to focus on the business more, and then also not have to worry about the financial aspect of it.
Yeah, so you were living life in Western denominated currencies, but living in Eastern countries and being able to arbitrage your
great
life
arbitrage.
Yeah, awesome. So obviously, at some point along the way, I mean, I think the next step is, I imagine, pretty obvious here. You're selling stuff on Amazon. You're looking for opportunities. You've obviously already had the talent to write a scraper for domain names. Now I imagine it's writing a scraper to find opportunities on Amazon. Is that kind of the thought process there?
Yeah, that's essentially how it went. But actually, I didn't code it myself. I hired a developer. No.
Oh, I thought you, because I know you can code some, so.
A little bit.
Enough to be dangerous.
Yeah, not too dangerous.
Okay. Interesting. So you hired.
Funny enough, I just built a scraper like a month ago. That was the first time I built a scraper.
We talked about last night building a scraper for something. We'll keep that under wraps, but
yeah.
I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. But all right, so interesting. So you had the idea, and then you were able to find a developer in Poland or something, maybe Eastern Europe or whatever. It seems to be the hotbed for a lot of stuff, or maybe it was someplace where you were living. And
yeah, that's the gist of it. So essentially, actually, I was trying to figure out what was selling well on Amazon. You know, there was like rules of thumb people were using. Like if the BSR is 1,000 or 3,000, it sells 500 a month or whatever. There's always like really crappy rules of thumb that weren't very accurate at all. And so I think I was getting frustrated with those and being like a pretty like data-driven type person. I essentially developed our first algorithms for estimating sales on Amazon. And they were pretty crude, but like they were way better than these rules of thumb that were otherwise around at the time, because it varies a lot category to category. And then I was paying VAs, like I would come up with like a long list of product ideas, like 50 or 100, and then I was paying VAs to essentially search for them on Amazon, fill out the spreadsheet with like the top 10 products. And actually that spreadsheet looked like what the extension does today. It was like name, price, number of reviews. They use my algorithms to determine estimated sales. So essentially my idea was like, hey, instead of having to pay the VAs, like fill out these spreadsheets, it'd be really cool if there was just a little extension. You click a button and it just filled out the whole spreadsheet for you. And it's like, even today, if you think about it, like the extension looks like a spreadsheet, it's rows and columns of data.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, interesting. So I'm curious though, because I mean, obviously you wrote this for yourself or originally. At what point, how far in the process was it like, I'm going to offer this to the general public? Or was that the intention from day one? Or was that something where you had an aha moment at some point, like, man, like this is something other people might want?
My goal was to sell enough of the JungleScout extension to make back the money that I spent hiring a developer to build it.
Okay.
So I set my sights high.
You had that from the very beginning was kind of the intention.
Yeah. And actually it wasn't even that much money, like
$1,000 or something probably. Or,
yeah.
It's like cheap to get some of that type of stuff coded.
Yeah. And it was like just buggy and ugly.
Right.
Way like super crappy. So yeah, I think like a few $1,000. So I was like, man, if I could sell, a few dozen of these, I can like make my money back. So that was my goal. And I was like tied in with some FBA communities. Like I was fairly active like on Reddit and some of the Facebook groups and stuff like that. So I remember like I built like a very early prototype. I just like did a screen share and just like asked for feedback in these communities that like already kind of knew me. I was like, hey, by the way, if you're interested, like enter your email address in this form. I'll let you know if it turns into anything. Just through that, I collected, I think, like 100 email addresses, sold it the day we launched. Like a dozen people ended up buying it. And I was like, okay, this is like, seems like there are other people that are willing to vote on this with their credit card instead of just me.
Yeah, interesting. And the thing, I think that's a good lesson there of you didn't go in there on day one and just start trying to sell this thing. You already were in the community, right? So it's
Yeah.
just like you already
People knew who I was.
they
a
already
little
knew who
bit,
you
yeah.
were. You're providing value. Like, I mean, I see this all the time where people like jump in communities or like, I have this new great thing to sell, and no one's ever heard of them, and like then you're just like banned, perma-banned. Like, you already have a reputation, and you're
Totally. If you've been helping
community.
people the past year
Yeah.
in the community and stuff, no one minds if you like, post something like
I think
that.
that's definitely just like a good valuable life lesson in general. So you put this thing up for sale, a couple dozen people like with the credit card, as you say, and buy this thing. What's the evolution from there? Was it just like version 2, or you start refining, or it takes off like wildfire, and next thing you know, like, I don't care about this Amazon business any longer, and I'm going to start doing JungleScout? Like, how did that transpire?
So it's kind of funny because I was trying. So like my Amazon business was doing well. Like I kind of had it figured out. Like I could consistently launch products, and most of them would do pretty dang well. And I had like a pretty clear path ahead how to grow that business a lot. And like I felt confident. I knew how to do it. I had done this, at this point like a bunch of times before. So I think I was trying to be a little bit mindful of like not chasing a new shiny object, right? And I was like, I don't know anything about building software. So at first I was pretty hesitant to spend too much time on it because it's like, man, this is kind of fun, but also like I want to stay focused on what's working.
Interesting. You're a unique entrepreneur, because usually the shiny objects is the one that like really gets you. So it's interesting that you even had the wherewithal, especially when you were younger, to stay focused for a bit.
Yeah, but I think I kind of learned that a little bit maybe the hard way through like all these other little things I was always trying. Like I was always jumping to the next thing really quickly. Where the truth is, like for any business to be successful, you have to kind of be all in on it for like a certain period of time, right? Because all businesses are relatively hard to start. So yeah, I was trying not to spend too much time on it. I think after I sold those first dozen, like a few other sales just trickled in over the next few weeks. It's like, man, I guess like people are telling their friends about it. Or I don't know how people are finding this thing.
Right.
And then I think where it kind of got started was one or two people who were like teaching Amazon courses at the time. I think like one guy, he reached out to me and he's like, hey, I found out about this. This is actually really cool. Would you mind doing a video or like a webinar for my course? I was like, I don't know how to do webinars. I've done it before, but like, sure, it doesn't look that hard. And from that, there was like 50 people on the webinar and like 30 people or something bought it. It's like the highest converting webinar ever.
That's crazy. Wow.
So I was like, dang, that was pretty cool. I just made whatever, a few thousand, or like $1,000, a couple $1,000, or I forget, over the course of like an hour. I was like, man, I should do some more of these webinar things. So I think I reached out to like every course provider that I could find. I think they all say like get lost, except maybe like one other person. But I did another one, and maybe not as much success on that one, but still like a little bit of success. And that's when I was like, all right, it seems like maybe I should try to take this a little bit more seriously.
So what year? I mean, I'm always like trying to figure out chronologically. You started selling in 2012. What year did you make the plug-in, and what year did you start selling it?
I started selling it in February of 2015.
2015. Okay. So, you'd been selling for a couple of years. Your Amazon business is doing well. How many or how millions were you selling in Amazon revenue at that point? In like early 2015.
I think I was probably doing like $250,000 a month.
Okay. So $3 million a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, at some point, because that's a decent chunk of change. I mean, if you're netting 10 to 20%, you're making 300 to 600.
Back then, my margins were actually pretty good too.
Yeah.
They were better than that.
Good margins. Let's just say you're making $600K a year on the $3 million. It's a big leap to go from making $600K a year to trying to make $600K or more than $600K a year, or $29.99 at a time, or whatever the extension was. So, there must have been something that happened somewhere along the way where you're like, man, like this deserves more of my attention, more than what I'm doing over here, making good money already.
Well, I think it was more so just the challenge and like the fun aspect of it, more so than I wish I said like I made these very calculated decisions or like perfectly splitting up my time how it should be or whatever else. But I think it was just kind of like fun and exciting.
Okay, so you did have shiny object syndrome, maybe it was
a
little bit.
Yeah, definitely at least some of it. And then I think it was also kind of enjoyable for me, I think, to like teach other people about the Amazon stuff, because I was like, whoa, a lot of these people are like really bad at this. Like they don't understand a lot of it. I was like, man, I could like teach them some of the stuff, and I think that was like kind of fun for me. Like in that process, JungleScout was starting to get more, just like more well known, more people finding out about it, and yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I mean, the thing that I've always admired, I mean, in the room that we're recording in here, you have this YouTube plaque of you got over 100,000 followers. You put out like all this content ahead of time. And I think a lot of the success had to have come from just being one of the early guys out there, providing immense amounts of value, like showing people like steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like how to exactly go on there and do this stuff. And the market's so deep. I mean, it's really hard to get your head around how big the opportunity is, even with the number of people now in almost 2020 that have come on the Amazon. There's tens of thousands of people a year jumping in. There's still a huge opportunity. So being able to articulate that in a way at a time where way before all these tens of thousands of people have jumped on, just give you like so much credibility and clout in the industry.
Yeah, I remember when we launched the Jungle Sticks. That was, looking back, that'd probably be like that time period, and probably part of it was because of that case study. It was like probably a little bit of like a pivotal point in like the trajectory of the business. And yeah, I remember that case study picked up a ton of traction because I think there were a few people kind of teaching about it, but they didn't want to talk about any of their products or anything. Yeah. And I was like, watch, I'll launch a product in front of all you guys in real time, and it'll actually sell, and it'll do pretty well. And it did. And like, it still sells really well today.
Yeah.
So I was like, watch this, I got it figured out.
Yeah. And we took the same approach with Ecomcrew, and I didn't really even put the two together until we're sitting here talking about it, but it's very rare in this space for someone to talk about anything than what they're doing. Right? Either they're talking about it and they're hiding behind a facade, they're not really doing it at all, which we see this a lot, or they're just scared that someone's going to like replicate what they've done and come eat their lunch. And for me, it was just like, I don't want to be that guy. If we're going to be doing a podcast, we're just going to talk about everything open and 100%. We're doing ice reps, we're doing color, we're doing Wild Baby, we're doing tactical. Like, here's all the products we're launching, here's the successes, here's the failures.
Right.
And it's more real than just trying to say like, just follow me, like everything we're doing works, when realistically not everything works, and it's hard to really believe something if you can't see under the hood. And so I think that it's just a different approach that works a lot better than just trying to hide behind be the Wizard of Oz or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
With that, I totally agree with all of that. With that being said, though, like I remember when we did our second product, once we had like a little bit of a bigger following, we did these like hooded baby towels, and there were probably like 30, 40, maybe 50 people that just directly copied everything we were doing, and literally within, I remember like a month of us launching, there were like maybe up to 50 competitors launching like those same weeks.
Yeah.
So like there is like a certain level of that you screw yourself over a little bit, like if you have a large enough following. But at the same time, if I were to do it all over again, I wouldn't do it any differently.
Yeah.
All things being considered.
We certainly had lots of people copy us as well. And there's a lot to be said for A, being the first to market, and B, just it isn't like those hooded towels with like your entire business. So regardless if someone copies it or not, it doesn't really matter. And for me, like, we were lucky and just fortunate enough that we were already in a pretty good position financially anyway. And for me, the overarching goal is to help people and share what we're doing, share our story. And I also take the approach now that I've gotten older and been through a few business cycles that we're never going to sell the world's gel pens, and we're never going to sell the world's like ice packs. And I know people are going to copy us. And instead of spending all my energy worrying about that, I just worry about what I'm going to keep doing moving forward.
Right.
And it was definitely a hard lesson to learn that I learned during the online poker affiliate days, because we came up with some brand new concepts, things that I spent a lot of time and energy working on. And I thought I was really smart, and that should be mine. And you realize that there's nothing you can do to stop people from copying that stuff. And I know now that had I spent more energy worrying more about what I was doing like I did in the early days instead of worrying about them, I just would have been way better off. And it wasn't just better off for the business, but just emotionally, because when you get spun up about that, it can spiral out of control. At least it did for me. I was like, you're getting this like people, it's like, and then you just go like in this spiral that downhill, and it just isn't worth it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. I remember the first few people like copied JungleScout. I was
right.
I think I just had so many emotions, like pissed, upset, sad. I don't know. It's like all the emotions. Just none of them felt good.
Yeah.
And then today, it doesn't even really bother me at all because I think I've just realized that that's just part of it. Like the way that you like stay out ahead is just like continuously innovate. And if they're just copying everything you're doing, they're always kind of like a step behind.
Exactly.
And instead, like just stay laser focused on the problems you're solving, like the people you're helping, what they need, what you can do to better help them, how you can make your own product better. And that's like the best you can do.
Yeah, and I mean competition like that keeps you from getting complacent.
Totally.
I think it motivates you, keeps you,
Absolutely.
looking at the North Star all the time, and it's natural. Like, and it happens in nature or whatever as well, right? It's like you think about lions or something out in the wild. It's the same type of thing, and you just got to keep on fighting and being the strongest guy. So yeah. And so obviously, like there's a lot of stuff that happened between then and what's kind of happening now. And we only have a limited amount of time for the podcast, so I really want to talk about building a team, because I think that I'm most impressed about you. Like I've known you now for a few years, we've hung out and done 5-minute pitch, and I've just known you from the speaking circuit, and I've seen you grow from I think like 20 or 30 people, whatever it was when I first met you, to almost a couple of hundred now. And I'm always the most impressed with people that can take this transition of being a solopreneur to running a small team to like running like a mid-sized company to now like you're pushing towards another whole envelope. And I guess the reason that I'm impressed by is because I haven't been able to successfully do it. I've tried a couple of times. It's really tough, like managing people and teams like that, and being organized, and just keeping everybody pushing in the same direction is really difficult. So I mean, how have you been able to do that?
Good question. I don't know.
Well, we're done. Let's go home now.
No, I mean, I agree with you that like the people who are good at like starting businesses are typically not the people who are good at like operating or like running like larger companies. Like they're different skill sets and they're typically different personalities as well. I can't point to like one thing that I think has like helped me be able to do this well. I feel like it's just like constant learning, like consistently just being humble, realize that like you don't know anything, with just like an open mind and trying to learn from like whoever's done that before. From mentors to just like reading books to listening to podcasts from other founders' stories and all the things they did wrong. I think it's just like a combination of just kind of like all those things of how just that I've learned what I know today and how I'm still learning to try to get to the next level.
Yeah, interesting. So this came up at a dinner conversation or something at some point over the last week. I forgot. Everything's always a blur. But you mentioned a few books, a couple books that I've heard as well, one or two that I've read myself. Do you mind mentioning those? I kind of know what they are. I don't want to ruin your prey, but if you remember them or not.
Let's see. Was it Scaling Up?
Yep, Scaling Up, which has been recommended by lots of people. I've actually read a good portion of it
nice.
Right now. Yeah, I just got recommended that book recently.
Yeah. The Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Yeah, another really good book.
Great book. And then as far as like leadership and people management, I think the single most influential book for me is Radical Candor. I think Kendall Scott, I think's her name.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, very good stuff. Cool. So I happen to be here at a time when you guys have been going through this amazing initiative, which is awesome to see the energy in the building. It's been like the 8 weeks of 8 new features at JungleScout. We're at the tail end of it. But I think still a very good topic for today on the podcast, just for people out there that you kind of like. I think for me, and it's interesting because I've known you, and I would think that I would, if any one person would be more up to date about like what JungleScout's up to, I feel like it would be me. But you guys have been working on so much stuff I had like no idea. It's like so cool like to see what's been going on. So let's talk about like the 8 new things you guys released over the last 8 weeks.
Yeah. So, I guess this whole thing started because like this year in general, we've built up our product team a lot. Like if we rewind to the beginning of this year, I think we probably only had like maybe a dozen or maybe 15 developers, where now it's probably close to like 40 developers. And with that, like a whole bunch more PMs and UX people and everything else. Like we have a lot of capacity to like build stuff really fast. And so we had like tons of stuff on the roadmap, but like a lot of these new developers are starting kind of like mid-year. A lot of the stuff they were working on is, it was like a whole bunch of it was going to be ready around kind of like the same period of time. So yeah, it's just like a marketing initiative. We're gonna do 8 weeks of product releases, like one per week, which was a really fun thing. It just wrapped up. Yeah, so like just to go through them all real quick. Man, I hope I remember them all.
I think I remember them. I can maybe help a little bit.
The first week was the ASIN search functionality inside of our supplier database. So you enter an ASIN. JungleScout checks a few different records to see what company owns that brand and then matches them up to see where they've been importing their goods from. So that's like a pretty cool thing.
I think you started out with my favorite feature off the bat, because that was, when I saw it, I was like, whoa, that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah.
The next one, we launched our brand new in-app academy. So we have like a whole bunch of content in-app. It turned out really nice. It's just like well organized, little snippets, high quality information. So proud of that. I think week 3 was our new and improved Keyword Scout, so our keyword research tool. So we had a keyword research tool before, but didn't support the EU. It didn't have historical search volumes. It didn't have like trend data and stuff like that. So we released that. So that was really cool. A few other things, I'm probably gonna get the order wrong, but like we released our new sales analytics platform. So that's just like all your sales data, profitability data, all of like the graphs and the reporting that you wish was inside of Seller Central but doesn't provide to you. We released that one. We released our our keyword rank tracker. Of course, you put in a keyword, it lets you know where the ASIN's ranking for that particular keyword. Pretty proud of how that one turned out. Man, I think I'm going to forget one because I have the alerts and inventory management, and there's one that for some reason I'm forgetting now. So alerts, like let you know if there's like a hijacker in your listing or it gets suppressed or you get put into the adult category, whatever else. Inventory management, relatively self-explanatory, lets you know when you need to reorder. And what's the one I'm forgetting?
I can't remember the last one. I had inventory, but I couldn't remember the other one. I think that maybe I
got it. It's called Opportunity Finder.
Oh, okay.
So that's our newest product research functionality that like a couple years back we released something called like the Niche Hunter. I wasn't like super proud of how it turned out. Just like the data inside of it was just too messy that it never really fulfilled like the expectations I had for it. So this was like kind of take 2 at it. And I actually am pretty proud of how this one turned out. We're still making some tweaks, but even right now, like literally within 5 minutes, like you can find a pretty dang good opportunity to sell.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we demoed that as well, and I was like, wow, that's pretty darn cool. And
yeah,
I kind of wished I was at that stage of our business right now, because we've kind of got plenty of opportunities to work on right now. But yeah, definitely awesome. And the thing that I really love about the direction JungleScout's going is that, I mean, at least it seems that it's becoming like this all-inclusive suite of tools to do everything that an Amazon seller would need to do. And for me, like, I think it's getting pretty close to being there, being an all-inclusive suite, and certainly over the next year, I think it will be. And I'm excited for that, just because I'm sick of like having to like log in to one tool to do one thing and another tool to do another thing, and just being able to log in the JungleScout to get it all done is pretty darn cool.
Yeah, that's our exact goal. That this is like really the tool that Amazon sellers need. Like what we found is most FBA sellers are, either like the entrepreneur or small business. They would like fall into kind of like those categories. And really, like this group of people, they don't want to have to pay for like a multiple different subscriptions.
Yeah.
They don't really need super advanced stuff like, once you get to larger businesses, they're storing inventory in all different types of areas. They have all different types of accounting tools and maybe revenue recognition, all this different type of stuff. And like these small businesses, they don't really need all of that. What they're looking for is like a simple yet robust tool that's kind of like their command center to be like running their business. That's the exact goal of JungleScout.
Yeah, very cool. So let's end it on what's next for JungleScout. What's going to happen in 2020?
Yeah, we this past few weeks we've been doing a lot of like our 2020 planning, and I think you can see a lot more around the concept I was just talking about. Like we really are making this transition from JungleScout being this product research tool into JungleScout being this tool to not only find like new products, new opportunities, do keyword research, but also the tool that you're using to like manage your business day to day, optimize, grow your business day to day. So really all of our initiatives are really around helping Amazon sellers do a better job with that.
Cool. If you've been living under a rock for the last several years, you can go to ecomcrew.com/JungleScout to learn more about JungleScout. And Greg, thanks so much for coming and doing this today, man.
Thanks for having me on, Mike. It's been fun.